I believe the future of education is apprenticeship. The data conversation is so much more about really trying to listen and understand your people.
But how do we make sure that we transfer that knowledge generationally?
And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, are you asking the right question?
Yeah. If lower is not the game anymore, my paycheck's going to grow?
If you're not doing this, you're behind because the competition's changed.
The future millionaires of America are plumbers and electricians.
Welcome to the Beyond the Breaker podcast.
Let it rip, Tater Chip.
All right, let's do it. Well, a big time episode, Beyond the Breaker podcast. Welcome to Josh Bone. Josh is our first external guest on this podcast. So we, from Hunt's perspective, and I think from our two's perspective, we're very excited about this, Josh. Having you in, understanding, we're hoping to explain more about what ELECTRI is to the people of Hunt, but obviously to all the listeners, thousands of them that we
so
get
many
every
thousands.
episode. A little bit about what ELECTRI is, the benefit it has for electrical contractors. And I know from my experience with it through NECA, like there is untouched benefits from all contractors who have access to it, but maybe don't utilize it to its full potential. So we're excited about that. And then you being the expert you are in technology and analytics in the electrical construction world, we want to touch on a few of those things. But to start, if you could introduce yourself, kind of your role with ELECTRI, and might as well get right into it. What is ELECTRI and why does it benefit a council member like Hunt Electric?
Perfect. I am the executive director of ELECTRI International. ELECTRI is the R&D foundation born out of NECA, entirely focused on the electrical contractor, looking at the future of this industry. I wake up every day and I work for every electrical contractor across this country. My focus is the NECA contractors. And of course, ELECTRI is built from a council of members that make contributions and donations. But everything that ELECTRI does, all of our research, all of our education, all of our content, and we're starting to do more podcasts, we're starting to do more white papers, we're starting to do things that are more consumable to help contractors in their bottom line. You know, we're looking at all these mega trends that are affecting our industry, putting out research on a consistent basis that is free to everyone. Anybody can go to electri.org and download calculators. We just recently, one of our big initiatives to show that how we're pivoting into being that R&D foundation, we incubated and piloted the project management apprenticeship. Very small, very agile team created the first ever new collar apprenticeship at a national level, big scale, trying to bring project managers and create a apprenticeship for the office. So
love that idea.
We are
really genuinely love that idea.
I believe the future of education is apprenticeship. I really do. I look at what's happening with the universities and I look at the enrollment cliff that they're already experiencing. The cost that it has gone up to go to college these days.
You're talking to a guy who just filled out a FAFSA for my first kid going to college. Whoa.
I know. I mean, I look back at when I was going to college, back when there was still stone and chisel, but really not that far removed. The cost is exponential for the university that I went to and what it costs to do that today, and room and board and all those things have gone up. So, we see this happening with Google. We see this happening with Microsoft. Big companies are really leaning into this apprenticeship. And what I took over this role as the executive director. I come from the industry. I started my career 27 years ago into this thing called 3D modeling. I did coordination. I sat in job trailers and was told every day how much of a moron I was by sprinkler fitters, by electricians, by plumbers, that's not how we're going to build it. Well,
did you believe some of that too?
Oh, I definitely believed it because they proved it to me. And I had the right personality at the right time to sit there and listen and learn. And when I found something like the electricians in there talking about something, well, the sprinkler fitter just told me they're coming through there and hanging tight to the ceiling. Oh, no, they're not. Let's bring them in and talk. So I was doing BIM and 3D coordination before the term BIM was even a thing. And I've always been on the front end of technology adoption. When the iPads came out, I went to work for a startup where we were taking 2D plans and turning them into, put them on a tablet, an iPad, and Surface Pros, and delivering them out in the field, doing plan comparisons. And we started that business 11 and a half months later, we sold to New Forma. So it's, I've been around this industry for 27 years, and I'm trying to take all that knowledge and impart it into ELECTRI. And I've got a great council. Hunt is a huge supporter of ELECTRI. And I'm blessed to be able to work with contractors that believe in, moving this industry forward.
Yeah. Got to be innovative.
Have to be. That's what we really try to be, innovative.
And if you could kind of, put a slight more personal, I'm going to ask you to be a little vulnerable.
Hey.
But like, what's the why there? What drives your why? Yes, it's intellectually interesting. Yeah, it sounds dynamic. You've seen a lot of change, and that's fun. But what's that sort of core of why?
So for me personally, I have always narrowed it down to three things. It's purpose, it's curiosity, and connection. If I can connect with people, if I can be curious in the role that I'm in and explore and try to solve big problems, and at the end of the day, I can add value, me personally, that is what I wake up every day and think about, am I doing those three things? I know certain things is going to deplete my cup that I have to do. Expenses for travel completely depletes my cup. It tears at the fiber of who I am as a person. But I do that for all the other great things I get to do. I mean, being here and having this opportunity to talk to you about things I care so much about. Yesterday, I was in LA talking to the Orange County chapter with NECA. And tomorrow, I get a full day with contractors here with the Twin Cities chapter of NECA. I get to work with small contractors, medium contractors, large contractors, everybody. And I get to learn so much. And I enjoy learning as much as anything. So try to stay out in front of those trends that's driving our industry.
And I think that's the great thing about ELECTRI, and what I experienced with it was it's not just large contractors. Well, yes, there's quite a few of them there. You hear from everybody, and you're also willing to go listen to everybody, right? It's not, hey, you have to come to the ELECTRI meeting in order to get your voice heard. Josh and the team will meet you and hear about what are you facing, because for a small contractor, those problems are totally different than a large contractor. But at the end of the day, it's all the same industry. And I think what ELECTRI does a great job of is here is an issue in the construction industry, but here's the electrical component of it. Here's why it's a problem for electrical contractors. I think that's why the apprenticeship program, even, I believe we have some Hunt employees who are part of it.
You do.
It's electrical focus. It's not just a broad degree or, hey, you're going to be a project manager for a construction company. No, you're going to be a PM and electrical contractor. Here's what you need to know specific to that. So,
and we want to spin them off into estimating, to BIM and VDC. What you said is so important. We really do want to hear the voice of the foreman. We want to hear the voice of the project manager. We want to hear the voice of the estimator. I think we spend so much time thinking about construction. One of the things you'll hear about me is from the office. We spend so much time thinking about productivity at the face of work. We don't think so much about that a PO, on average, for a NECA contractor, it's 11 emails for one PO. The amount of time that it takes to create one invoice, 45 minutes. There's so much inefficiency in the office, but for us, we've been so focused on installation of electrical systems, we're always thinking about the field. I want to hear from the field. I want to hear from all aspects. If AI is making really big waves in estimating, so paying attention to that. I want to talk to the estimators and understand what are they learning and how's it helping them. But I want to talk to the controllers. I want to talk to HR. There's all of these aspects. What I think as ELECTRI that defines a great ELECTRI council member is that they're in a growth-minded business, not a lifestyle business. They're really focused more on the business and less in the business. And when you're out there running a lifestyle business, good for you. That's great. You're focused on revenue. That's all you need to focus on. When you really start thinking about growth, you've got to think about people. You got to think about processes. And, for anybody that listens to me, process.
Yeah. I think you'll find some kindred spirits in, some of the initiatives that we have right now at Hunt as an organization and sort of our own business maturation and that sort of natural life cycle. We've gotten to this point where that is becoming more of our focus. Again, not that we're shying away from supporting the field and trying to make that safer, better, faster, but also trying to find those efficiencies, that standard work, that standard workflow. We're all going to win together.
Yeah. I don't say this because I'm in this podcast. Hunt is a world-class electrical contractor.
Flip that.
Yeah, it is so true, guys. I'm fortunate to work with a lot of you from the low voltage side to the manufacturing side. I am always, from the leadership, it's you guys have the right people in the right place.
Well, we appreciate that because I think we sit on this podcast and we talk about ourselves.
Sometimes it feels too often.
but there's a lot to talk about here, right? And you talk about the field and the controller, and for some companies, that's a team of 3 people.
Yeah.
For Hunt, it's a lot of people involved.
It is.
So when you talk about efficiencies and that 11 emails, one of my favorite presentations you used to give, and you probably still do, was on analytics, and why I liked it, because the only way for me to understand it was if you brought it into like NFL talks or talks.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Let's build some sports analogies.
I get it makes sense to me now. Yeah. But that presentation stuck with me because it was clear. This is what they're doing at the top of their game in the best sports league in the world. Electrical contractors should be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing today, the usage of analytics? And I think Ben's going to have a lot of questions off this because he's really the guy that knows this stuff. But what are you seeing today as, how electrical contractors are best utilizing analytics?
So we're still in the early stages. We're collecting a lot of data today. Leveraging that data is another step that requires a lot of intention about how you structure that data, how you position that data to be able to actually use it and make decisions from that data. The Moneyball talk is where it started, but I do talk about basketball. I talk about the analytics of sports a lot. But you go back to Moneyball, and you remember in the movie, what was the one KPI, the one key performance indicator to replace Giambi, to replace on base percentage.
Yeah.
And you look at the baseball card today beyond Moneyball. Well, now there's slugging percentage.
Yeah.
There's OPS. There's WAR. There's all of these new KPIs because they realize these stats matter. Where I think we have the ability today to really start to leverage is being more intentional about forecasting, working with and creating a baseball card that sets up a PM to be successful. How do we measure our PMs? How do we measure our foremen? How do we measure every position on our team and set them up? It's simple things like accounts receivable. If you're not intentional about accounts receivable, that 30-day payment terms easily stretches out to 60, 70. The average that we've seen, 84.4 days to get paid on 30-day terms. You've got to be intentional about this. And data, you can't manage what you can't measure. That's a Edward Deming quote that I'm a big fan of. Edward Deming, one of the original industrial engineers. We've got to start looking at our businesses, and we hire winners. How do we set them up to win? And how do we give them tools to start thinking more proactively to say, what is our revenue for this project this month? What are we anticipating? How much is out there in retainage? How much is out there in claims? How much is out there in change orders? Let's look at these things and create dashboards and have great conversations around it. But eventually, you're going to see it really start to, over time, that data is going to help us get more predictable and see trends.
And I think, too, I want to pile into that and say, not just we pick winners and we help them be successful, but how do we make sure that we transfer that knowledge generationally? Andrew, we're in a different generation than each other.
Yeah, we are. We did that episode.
Indeed.
You're a Gen X?
I'm significantly older than Andrew, and I've been in the business about as long as he's been alive. And, part of my why is paying it forward. Somebody took a chance on me, took the time to invest in me and help coach me and guide me on better and best practices. And so, part of my hope is with some of the analytics and some of the way that we measure things differently than we used to is how do we incorporate that into paying it forward? I hear you talk a little bit about apprenticeship. I know that we have internal things that we're creating with our own Hunt University and really formalizing some of that knowledge transfer so that we can continue to get better and continue to build on that.
We're trying to dive into this from an ELECTRI standpoint. We're creating the KPI industry benchmarking report. So you go online, you look, we set the KPIs for financial, for labor, for BIM, for safety, and you go in and put that number in. And ultimately what you can do now is say, hey, I'm a small contractor in the Midwest, do this many hours. How much do I really spend on my fleet monthly and annually? Does that line up really well in what other contractors my size do? Or am I spending a lot or a lot less?
Yeah.
We're so blind in a lot of our businesses operating day in and day out with that data. And I look at what you just said, and I love it. I really like the fact that we think about, I've been looking at it from a holistic of the company and helping us see strengths and weaknesses in the business and looking at trends like backlog. Where is backlog increasing? Where is backlog eroding? How do we get more predictive around that? For the individual, if we're looking at them, let's go back to that baseball card analogy. Their batting average might be good, but hey, you're getting a lot of singles. How do we give you a few doubles? I think there's a lot that we can do to help transfer knowledge and be able to see these things. I think so often we do things every single day at work, but we don't realize the importance of it. I talk a lot about ability does not equal profitability. Just because we go grab scope and want to perform that work, can we do it in a profitable way? Are we sure that we can do that?
Andrew, does that hurt you as a business development guy?
No. We'll get over it.
That's right.
We'll get over it.
How are you measured, right? You tell me how I'm measured. I'll show you how I act.
Off, right? That's your problem.
That's your problem now at this point.
Josh, I want to stay on the data side, if you don't mind, for a little bit longer. When we talk about how are we measuring things and the KPIs that we put in place, I love that you're highlighting not every 5 electrician shop has data analytics teams. They don't.
No.
But are there resources that they can use to compare? Awesome. Love that. And I think that at Hunt, one of the things that we've done is in our, I'm going to call it data journey, and I'm going to go back about 4.5 years. We've been slowly building that, kind of building our own KPIs and figuring out how do we measure ourselves. And we're now making that next leap and looking at, we got lots of good lagging indicators. We can see what did happen, how did it happen,
great start.
The things and decisions that were involved. And now we're leveraging AI and other technologies to really build predictive modeling so that we can anticipate leading indicators. Going back to your baseball analogy, if we saw a batting average of 322 and we saw how many singles were there, we would know that after about the 3rd year that person's performing that way, they really need a mentor to step up. Yeah. Or if they don't, they ain't gonna.
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to do that and forecast, because we've been collecting data for 15, 18, 20 years, but it's messy, it's dirty.
Yes.
We spent a lot of time cleaning it up. And now we're building some of those models. And I don't know all the folks that are going to listen to this, but I continue to make the offer. We'll talk about our journey. We'll get into details. We'll show you darn near everything behind the curtain. Now, I'm not going to come do it for you, but I'll explain some of the things that we did do, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and extend that to friends and family. And I got to think that we would partner with ELECTRI and something like that too, if that was going to be valuable.
I would love to. And we've got data.
Andrew's got lots of time.
Yeah. So
he'll do it all.
Yeah. Listen, we work with these data scientists. But I want to go back to something you said that's so important. For those listening to this, I want them to understand first, data is never meant to be a stick or carrot. It is there to inform. If I have a problem around absenteeism, we never had that problem before COVID. Yeah. Before COVID, no call, no show out in the field, go back and sign the book. You're off this job. That's how that was the standard.
Standard behavior,
Now, somebody misses work on the job site and they come back the next day and it's like, do we need to give you a little more money or what are we doing here? It's a pat on the back. I'm just saying it. Yeah.
It's real.
The conversation has changed. What I want, where I think data and where anybody within Hunt can start to look at and say, okay, it's not going to be weaponized. It's going to be used to help us. I believe with data, we can reduce the amount of time that our workforce is spending on the road. We can be smarter about how we position them. We can set them up for jobs that makes them, meets their needs. If you want overtime, let's put you on an overtime job. If I don't know you want overtime, how can I set you up to be successful? Yeah. Or worst case, I don't want overtime, and I go put you on a job with carrying overtime.
Yeah, then I'm going to curse you all the way to Sunday.
Yeah, that's it. And to have conversations and sit down and say 5/8. 5/8. If we look at absenteeism compared to 4/10s, and we've got research on this.
Yeah.
5/8 is 3 times more likely for absenteeism rates than 4/10s. So let's talk about, do we start staggering crews? What do we need to do? Is that different in the winter than it is in the summer? How do we go about doing that? Because 4/10s, maybe they want more of their day, but maybe they want more of their weekend. These are things that, data can help us gain insights to ultimately where I say is, I started this year saying, I want to ask better questions because I look at AI and I think humans, one of the things that we need to be able to do is make sure, are we asking the right questions? And that may seem very simple, but so often I'm sitting in conversations and I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, are we asking the right question?
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation, but are we really asking the right questions? Am I hearing them and trying to understand what Microsoft really wants on this project? And we're seeing owners now starting to use data for productivity tracking, saying, okay, on this job, before you can even bid on this job, you've got to submit in your proposal how you're going to divert 10% of your labor off-site. Now, we're moving into a data-driven economy, guys. This is something I think most Americans don't understand. Why are we spending all this money on data centers? Why is it moving into these computing clusters and AI factories? You look at drug manufacturing, what it took Eli Lilly to manufacture that GLP-1 that everybody talks about. With AI and setting up an AI factory using data sets, FDA approves data sets. Things that may have taken you years to approve can be done in minutes, reducing the overall cost of that drug and ultimately making things so much more cost effective. I'm a more than a glass half full kind of guy. I'm an optimist.
I want to grab one more on the data side of things, and then I'll
it's my love language, Ben. Just so you know, I have to. You'll have to pull.
Talk about data.
That's it. Listen, but in a way that people can hopefully listen to.
And that's where I want to go. Is like let's level set this a little bit, and let's talk about not only the mentality of let's get curious, not punitive.
Yes.
It's not a stick.
Yes. It's not a carrot.
No, we can't incentivize just based on those data.
That's right.
We're going to screw some stuff up.
That's right.
And so, when I think about that medium or smaller size contractor, of course, we're biased toward electrical here, but I think it applies kind of everywhere throughout the industry. How can we start to get them into that mindset? What are maybe some first steps we can take to look at our own data, whether it's fleet records or absenteeism? Maybe even let's look at how should I set that up? 5/8, 4/10s? How do I get curious about that? And how do I start to track that? And then give me some of those good questions to ask. What could we encourage those small and medium-sized contractors to do to just kind of start to shift that mindset?
So I think change management is at the forefront of the conversation and what you're asking. In my opinion, you've got to be really good at change management, which means you've got to be able to communicate the why. You've got to get consensus very quickly. You've got to provide the right skills and motivation. There's a lot around that change management. Ultimately, we've got to be solving the right problems. So are we asking the right questions to solve real problems and focusing on different areas, trying to understand that a lot of times a PM's operating on gut, an estimator's operating on gut. We all in this industry operate on gut. And if we can start to go in and confirm and start to show that, hey, your gut's right. Maybe it's not as much as you thought, but let's really start to apply some numbers and metrics to it. And when does it get worse or when does it get better? And how do these things happen? It's not easy, but I think when you really try to sit back and the whole mentality is about minimal viable product. How do we create this most simple solutions and really try to solve the problems? For example, are we measuring absenteeism? I've learned that most people don't measure absenteeism. They show me, well, Ben worked 8 hours. Andrew worked 4 hours. Josh worked 2. Well, did Josh miss out on hours? We don't know.
Yeah.
Why did you work more? Did you work overtime and stay back and work on something? There's not enough information. We have to be intentional and say how many hours were scheduled, how many hours were worked. We've got to be thoughtful in thinking that and be able to go in and look and say, where is the absenteeism? Where is it happening the most? How can we go talk and have conversations and start to understand, is it drive time? Is it overtime? Is it
get to the why,
is it
that root cause?
Hey, and data can lead you there. Really, data can lead us there. And I think it's so much more about the data conversation is so much more about really trying to listen and understand your people, really understanding the challenges they face, the problems they deal with daily.
Well, I think I've heard it, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but it's like the data is only as good as like what's put in. If you just put stuff in there for substance, is it really data?
It's not.
It's not. I mean,
You
'cause
contaminated
can't do
it,
anything
and
with it,
you're
right?
now
You
you've
can
got
say we're
misinformation.
tracking, we're tracking data. Are you? Are you actually tracking it? It's the same hours conversation you had. You did mention this earlier about data centers. I would love to hear, your outlook, and if you have a crystal ball, you don't need to share it. But
No.
what do you
have?
you do.
Hey, I don't hold anything back.
Sorry, if you sign an NDA for something, you shouldn't share it.
No.
What are you seeing, and what is ELECTRI seeing in this data center boom that we are just so much in right now, and seemingly is not slowing down?
So I'll start with this. People talk about the AI bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what I'm seeing and I'm believing. So today we are building data centers. Data centers that we're building today are really housing data. They're not computing clusters, which is different. They're housing data at the edge of computing. And the data centers we're building, a lot of them are air cooled because they're not even using the chips and the computing power to the level where we're going. So think about today, direct to rack, anywhere from 15 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts on the upper side.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are moving into now with agentic and the ability to go in and train a lot more of these models. You look at and you hear about ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Gemini or whether it's Copilot or whether it's Perplexity. They have all been trained on hundreds of trillions of sets of data with computing. As we start moving into agents, we're going to have to train these agents in massive data sets and using computing power of a much larger scale. We're talking about in the next year and a half to 2 years, moving to a 1 megawatt direct to rack. The bubble is our future economy. We are shifting from a manufacturing driven economy. Think about those drugs. What if I told you it took me billions of dollars to produce a drug, and with AI, I can produce that same drug in speed to market for a few $1 million? I'm here to tell you guys it's that transformative. So companies that are using AI are going to have a massive competitive advantage when it comes to going to market with a drug, when it comes to going to market with any product, but it's going to be driven through AI. So this is a race for the US and China are at the forefront of this.
For sure.
And other countries are doing it, not even close to the scale. So when we talk about this bubble, we're going to be so deep into it. There's going to be so much work. What we have to start to pay attention to now with this data center boom, and as more of this starts to come our way, the future of our economy is tied to energy.
Yeah.
Energy
Power generation.
power
and distribution.
generation is at the forefront of all this. So not only can we be building data centers, not only can we be building these more complicated computing clusters, we're going to have to generate the power that creates them. We're going to have to manufacture the chips that support it and run it. You've got these liquid cooled systems now. These owners of these data centers are going to have to become part of the grid, because I'm looking at politics and the news. Utility costs are going up. You've got massive investment coming in from the largest private investment groups in the world, the KKRs, the Apollos, the BlackRocks, the Blackstones. It's unbelievable the amount of investment. We're watching our utilities get privatized because of this whole boom. It's all coming together. And what I think it's doing is creating a super cycle of construction where data centers are going to drive it, but there's going to be so much more that it could change the landscape of what the competition looks like. Looking at who Hunt has competed with in the past, you may start to look across and look at jobs and say, hey, why don't we have that equipment? Why are we not even able to bid on that work? This term of OFCI, owner furnished, contractor installed, is booming. So the future of construction, today it's prefab. It's moving to modular. We're watching that happen now. The next wave is multi-trade modular. And then beyond that is manufacturing. Now, you guys are ahead of that curve, but what you're going to see is it creating such demand. It's going to give Schneider, ABB, Siemens, and Eaton, they're getting into prefabricated modular solutions. And you're going, hey, you're a partner, right? We are your partner. But let's look at how we're going to partner and work together in the future. That's going to look different. It's creating so much demand. It's changing the rules. Where Schneider would have never said in the past, hey, we're going to build prefabricated modular components. That would have always been Hunt's work. But the speed to get to market with these things,
sure,
It's not cost, it's speed. And anywhere that you can cut time out of it, that's the new game. So when I hear these smaller contractors, I'll go low. Low's not the game anymore.
Yeah.
These owners, even hospitality, even healthcare, are starting to realize, how do we drive speed?
Yeah.
Speed can be consistency. It can drive production. It can do all those things. So
I just heard you say that low isn't the game anymore. And I know from a particular business delivery standpoint, it never was.
No.
Let's give more
Yes.
for more.
yes,
But at the same time, if I'm a craft worker and I'm involved in putting together buildings or widgets, whether they're modular or more traditional stick-built construction, if lower is not the game anymore, my paycheck's going to grow? Is my value going to increase? Can I expect maybe something different, in 10 years, or maybe when my kids join the trades? Should they have a different expectation and experience?
So I pay very close attention to this. The CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, just was quoted a couple weeks ago. The future millionaires of America are plumbers and electricians. Larry.
That sounds fun, but help me understand that just a little bit.
Well, so what he believes is with AI, jobs like marketing, jobs like accounting, a lot of these office jobs that have been traditionally white collar are going to get massively automated. And you will have 4 accountants do what 40 accountants have done in the past, because it's truly going to automate that. It's not going to automate out the electrician. Now, what I have seen is this. The electrical systems of the building, I was just reading this on the flight here. I was looking at a lot of Bureau of Labor statistics. Sounds fun, right? Well, listen, I put it into Perplexity, and I said summarize, focus on electrical contracting. I'll drop things into Notebook LM. Trust me, I'm not that much of a nerd. I love the data, but I will consume it and not just reading a Federal Reserve report, right, on productivity. So I was going through that and summarizing it, and what this demand and where this is going to go. We studied this last year, a hospital in South Carolina, 27 years ago, $98 million to build a 150-bed hospital that had 10 to 12% of the total scope was electrical. Today, that 150-bed hospital is over $220 million to construct in South Carolina.
More than double the cost.
More than double. The electrical scope is now 30 to 35%. Where I see this industry going, and I start to look at the electrical systems themselves. I look at the technology. Electricity and technology lines are blurring. Data and power are converging. To be an electrician, what the skills were for the past generation are going to be very different of the future generation, because electrical is going to be tied into everything. I mean, look at how much lighting has changed in my career.
Yeah.
With the controls and all the ability to automate and connect it.
Yeah.
The way things are going, some are going to look more like networking than they do electricians. We're going to see a hybrid. NVIDIA is big on this 800 volt DC system. We're going to start to see a hybrid of AC and DC. I think we're going to see a massive opportunity with everything being connected. That means every boiler, every chiller is moving to be a fully electrified piece of equipment. That keeps the mechanical contractors up at night. Everything having power and everything having connectivity creates a massive opportunity for our low voltage, limited energy opportunities. And then beyond that, over the life cycle of the building, to service and operate and maintain that. Electrical chiller, the cost to operate and maintain that is a fraction of the cost of using some fossil fuel type product that's running off some fuel. It costs way more to operate. It costs way more to maintain. You're going to see these shifts with this technology being built into it. And what we're going to have to get better at too is energy management. Mm-hmm. I just said we're going to have to spend trillions on power generation. Well, why would we not offset some of that initial spend by being more energy efficient? Yeah. Showing school systems how to save money, showing municipalities how to cut costs. How do we become those consultants? Yeah, I believe the future of electrical contracting is far more specialized, and it's a lot more diverse. It's not about 80% of our work bending pipe, pulling wire. We'll continue to do that, but it will be done with conduit benders.
Sure.
And
sure.
something that may have taken 4 hours may take a couple minutes now. But hey, let's move you into a BIM department. Let's move you into plan, layout, and design. Let's look at this. And maybe you're a layout specialist for data centers. Maybe you're a layout specialist in healthcare for whatever that needs to be, because we've got to systematize and drive processes around how we get more efficient. This is a maturing of our industry. We're at a turning point, and there's a lot of factors leading to this. Demand of construction, the changing workforce. Our workforce is changing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Every day this year, 11,650 Americans turn 65 years old.
Every day.
Every single day.
Wow. Our
population is getting older. Our workforce is getting older. And we're doing a good job of trying to replace some of those things in. But yeah, we're in the right place at the right time. It requires quite a bit of change to be as successful. But I think it's going to be more profitable. I do. I think you're going to see electricians making more money. You're going to see Hunt being more successful in how they grow the business. It's not going to look like a traditional electrical contracting business. I'm already watching you and watching it evolve right in front of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And as you think about, I started that question with this piece about craft worker. And I think what you're talking about is a dramatic expansion of what we might consider a craft worker, and somebody that doesn't need that super fancy 4-year education, that we can do on the job.
Yes.
We can do apprenticeship,
Yes.
vocational training for a couple of
Yes.
years. We can do all that stuff and really broaden that. So while we might not need 40 accountants somewhere in the future, that we'll be able to pull some of those folks into what we now call craft worker, and they're still going to have highly skilled, highly technical positions. They're still going to have to become experts, work at it for decades. But let's earn a living while we're doing it.
Let's talk about those decades for just a second. DOL is telling us, if you're under the age of
Department
25,
of Labor.
Department of Labor. Thank you so much. Yeah. Department of Labor tells us if you're 25 and under, you will most likely have to wait till 75 before you can collect your full retirement. They are anticipating a big increased life expectancy with what they're seeing early on from AI. And think about that. What we're teaching these electricians right now, if they're graduating and coming out as a journeyman worker, do we believe we're giving them the skills that they're going to need at 25 years old for the next 50 years of their career? What are we going to do to help them prolong their career? What are the next phases that we need to move them into to set them up, to move them into VDC, to move them into estimating, to move them into other areas? And hey, who knows? I mean, I'm getting out there on a futuristic talk, but where do we use exoskeletons to save shoulders and knees? And what are those things that we invest in to really think about how do we give them that career that they need? Hopefully they live, if they're going to work to 75. Hope they live a long time. Good luck, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll get there. That's quite a few more years. Well, as we kind of wrap things up here, what it sounds like from a lot of what you're saying is just from an electrical contractor standpoint, I think what Hunt has done a good job of, and others have in the industry as well, is like you have to adapt. You've always had to be adaptable to what's changing in the industry, but now it's like a matter of 2 months. If you're not doing this, you're behind because the competition's changed. The owners are just doing it themselves now because you were not fast enough to.
Yeah, the rules changed.
Everything in my career in 27 years, I go back and I look at the quality of electrical drawings that I was building off of 27 years ago. Not even close. The things that we're having to bid off of and trying to construct, we wonder why we have more RFIs. And think about it. Every job, I'll go back to that project. Let me just say this. This is important. I told you it's double the price, triple the electrical scope. Do you know what the schedule is?
Half.
58% of what it was 27 years ago. We're doing that project in half the time. But there's pre-construction, which was not even a term. Just a few years ago for most electrical contractors. The ability to service and operate and maintain all the low voltage systems and limited energy connectivity of all that has changed massively. There's so much opportunity in our industry is what keeps me really motivated, because there are going to be some new challenges. You've got the right leadership. You've got a lot of things in place right now at Hunt that can adapt to the business model changes that have to adapt, because that's where a lot of the smaller contractors, again, not too much of a nerd, But a few Christmases ago, I read a lot about the guilds of Europe. And you know what, actually, think about this. We always know about the blacksmith, but there was a tinsmith, there was a coppersmith, there was a ropesmith, a barrelsmith, a sailsmith. There was apprenticeships for everything because there was no manufacturing. You were good at what you did. Well, if I'm a ropesmith and they start manufacturing ropes, do you know what killed the ropesmith? Is Andrew comes in from sea and he's like, hey man, I need my rope fixed. This rope is trash. They're just learning how to manufacture these things. I need you to fix it. That'll take me 2 hours. It'll cost you $10. As opposed to me saying, you know what? I'm happy to fix that. And where I fix that is going to be better quality. You won't have to worry about that at all. It'll break somewhere else before it breaks on where I'm making this splice. Just so you know, it's going to be $60. What?
Yeah.
How's it going to cost me? Go buy a new one for $100.
Yeah.
Or pay me $60. We're still, a lot of the smaller contractors that I talk to are still labor brokers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be a labor broker in our world. I mean, I look at the industry consolidation. You guys look across, the bigger getting bigger. Electrical contractors are getting bigger. You're on that front end of this thing. And we're going to continue to see consolidation because what's coming our way?
Yeah.
Money.
Sure.
Yeah.
Money and opportunities.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anything else from you?
Yeah, I just, I want to put out a challenge there for you. As ELECTRI supporting small, medium, large contractors, and, you just offered, hey, the small folks, you can't be labor brokers anymore. That game has changed. The rules have changed. So I would challenge you as a partner and servant of the industry.
Absolutely. I'll take that. I will gladly accept servant.
Build some of those tools. Help build some of those tools to help those contractors see the new rules, adapt to the new change, and make those steps.
So
Let's
moving
keep
from
the trades
beyond
rolling.
the what, the why, the next is the how. We're looking at creating business coaching for those contractors to give them the tools they need to listen to other professionals that come from this industry that have that trusted voice. We're working on that. And I'll go beyond too. I want ELECTRI to be a voice for any Hunt employee.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to reach out, they go to ELECTRI, they can find my email address. I want to hear the things that they're dealing with. If we need to build a calculator, if we need to do certain things to help and show that, hey, we don't want to do this overtime on this project at this same rate, you got to understand, look at our productivity impact week over week to go into a 50-hour work week compared to a 60-hour work week. Let the data speak for itself.
Yeah.
And when that PM sitting across that table from that GC running that job and they're about to go into that OAC meeting, hey, just so you know, if we're going to go to this, we're going to have productivity fall off. Here's some things we can do to be smarter about that. Here's the data that shows you that. I just shared that data with Microsoft. We've got that data. We show that Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock is the most productive time on any job site, any given day. Don't move me and make me move. Move me on Friday. Don't move me on Tuesday. We're making money on
doing stuff.
We're installing on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Maybe
Awesome.
not so much on Friday.
Sure.
Well,
thank you so much for being here and being really candid about, what y'all are up to and how that supports us. And, again, I'm going to offer to be a partner. And if there are ways that we can help folks understand our data journey and the way that that's really helped us, happy to have those conversations and share in that learning.
I think it's so important that everybody, even listening to this podcast and Hunt, understands data is the future. Talking about KPIs, key performance indicators, talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures. What you have to standardize processes. Not always going to make everybody happy. It is the future of how you operate businesses.
Yeah, you would know right now. Yeah. Well, Josh, thank you.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
It's been
to
great
be
to
with
have
you
you.
guys. This is great. You guys are doing great things. I'm telling you what, guys. I started a podcast, just so you know, a long time ago called the Contact Trio. We thought if we get 500 listens in a year, we'll blow it out. We were averaging 3,000. I'm telling you, you guys are on to something. You got some things going here. You got the two of you got the right things. So thank you for the
Ben
opportunity.
pulls all the data for us too. We track it.
Good.